Okay, this is Unit 5, Lesson 6, second semester, 7th grade math. Vocabulary review. A proportion is an equation stating that two blanks are equal. Who's got it? Miriam? Ratios, very good. Now, these proportions that you're supposed to solve below, 2, 3, and 4, there's a number of different ways to solve proportions. Okay, a common multiplier, do you guys remember that? What's the other way? Yes? Cross product. Take the cross product, right? Now, you're going to see why I gave you guys calculators. For the most part, I want you guys to use the cross product method, okay? So, let's do a recap of that. Who remembers how to solve using cross product? Number 2. What am I doing? Explain that to me. Could you, and then go ahead and answer the question.
So you would do 2 times 15.
Right, we're going to take the first cross, which is 2 times 15. What is 2 times 15?
Please pardon the interruption.
It's 30.
Teachers and students, Mr. Bay, if you're in the building, please report to Mrs. Boss's class at this time. Mr.
And
Bay,
then-
Mrs. Boss's classroom. Thank you.
What else?
And 3 times A, which is 3.
Yes, now we have 3 times a, which is going to be 3a. Okay? Now, how do I go about solving that equation?
You divide both sides by 3.
I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Very good. And then what happens?
3 divided by 3 is A.
Okay, the 3's cancel out. I have a equals what?
30 divided by 3 equals 10.
30 divided by 3 is 10. Very good. Okay. Who can walk me through number 3? Go ahead, Goldus.
You will multiply 36 times 11.
What's 36 times 11?
That would be 396.
396. And then what else?
And then that will equal to 3n.
Okay, and we're going to do our other cross product, which is n times 3, which we have is 3n. And now what am I going to do?
And then you divide both sides by 3.
Divide both sides by 3. Very good. And what did you get when you divided both sides by 3?
132.
132 equals n. Okay, very good. Okay, who can explain to me number 4? Yes, Leah.
You do 63 times 6.
Yep, first cross is 63 times 6. Cross product is going to be what?
378.
378. Okay, and then that's going to be equal to the other cross product, which is
42 times K.
42 times k, which is 42k. Very good. Now, what am I doing next?
You divide both sides by 42.
Divide both sides by 42. Okay, and then what is the result going to be?
9 equals K.
9 equals, these cancel out, k. I believe I can show you some other methods here, but for the most part what we're doing today is we're going to be using cross product, and you'll see why in a moment. Let me go ahead and read the next portions for you, since I'm going to put this on the class channel. What you'll learn: to estimate population size using proportions. Why learn this? Researchers use Recapture method to estimate animal population size. They collect, mark, and release animals. Then they capture another group of animals. The number of marked animals in the second group indicates the population size. So let me explain what's happening. So, the capture part. They go out and they randomly capture a group of animals. Okay? Then they tag them. Then they release them back into the population. So that time while they release them, they mix up with the entire population. Got it? Okay, so let's just say for the state of Maryland, some people went out, they tranquilized some deer, tagged them, and let them go. Okay? And let's go directly to the problem. Okay. So tranquilized and released 105 deer. Got it? Now, later, they go out in a plane or a helicopter or whatever, and then they count deer. Got it? When they counted the deer up that they saw from the plane or the aircraft, they saw 638 deer. Guess what? Out of that group that they counted, randomly selected and counted, they saw that 48 of them were tagged. So this is the recapture part, what you see in red and green. So the capture, we mark them in blue, then we let them go. And then the recapture, or the counting, is here in red. That's how many they counted after the fact. And then they saw in that group that they counted 48. So you have a ratio. You have the ratio of the tagged deer that you release into the population. Okay, we don't know how big the population, we're going to use this to estimate. Okay. Marked deer. That's how many we tagged. Then later we came back and we counted 638 deer. And of the 638 deer, we saw 48 had a tag on them. Got it? So we can estimate the total population from this. And yes, there's going to be some room for error. That's why it's an estimation. By using cross-product property. Can you guys go ahead and solve this using what we just reviewed in our warm-up? And you have a calculator, but definitely show the steps in your notes. So everybody's got a calculator. Use your calculator. I'm going to let you use this on the quiz tomorrow. Yeah, lesson 6 quiz after lesson 6. Today's lesson 6. Look at the calendar. I updated the bulletin board. I mentioned this last week. It's been on the calendar for over a week now. I need you to get this done. Okay, what's the equation going to look like once we do the cross product? Somebody? Yeah, what's 638 times 105? Okay, so everybody understands what we have so far, right? Okay, how am I going to solve this? Divide both sides by 48. That's what I do here. And you're going to round to the nearest whole deer. We don't count half of a deer. Round to the nearest whole deer. What do we get for the nearest whole deer? That's what you guys got? Okay. Now, what I need you guys to do, let's just say instead of 48, that they only found 35 of the deer to be marked. I want you to recalculate the population estimation. Set it up and solve it. Everything else is the same. 105 deer were tagged originally in the capture step. 638 deer were counted in the recapture step. And 35 deer were counted as tagged during the recapture step. Yep, 105 were tagged. Just like the last problem, yep. Okay, the first step, to me, the setup is the only thing new. We need to set up our proportion. So we don't know the total population, that's what we're estimating. This stays the same. The only thing that changed was how many were tagged in the recapture group. Got it? So take the cross product. What do we get for my cross product? Everything stayed the same as the last problem, except what are we dividing by this time? And then what did you guys get for an answer for estimated? 1,914. What do these little wavy, what does the wavy equal lines mean? Approximately. It's an estimate. It's not exact. Okay? Now, guess what? We're at the end of the lesson. Can somebody explain to me what is the capture-recapture method of estimating an animal population? So I explained it to you. I want you to explain it to me. Who can explain to me what's capture-recapture method? Somebody volunteer. What's happening? Teray?
The capture is like when they're talking about how many they took, and that would be the numerator. No, that would.
No, you're right.
that would
It's
be
the numerator. Okay, so that's the initial sample they took. They captured them.
Yeah.
That is going to be the numerator, but the numerator for over what?
Over the amount that they counted.
Nope. You're mixing up things a little bit. So what do you do in the initial capture? What's happening? Speak up, Thomas.
Things being tagged.
You're tagging your animals, okay? You're tagging them, and then what's happening? You're going to release them back into the population. So now in the population, you have a ratio of the total population and those that are tagged in the total population, okay? So do you understand how one of your ratios is those that are tagged over the estimated population, okay? Now, after you've released these back into the wild and they've mixed up with the total population, we are going to talk about the recapture part. What's happening during the recapture part?
They just kept them. They're just you're counting the amount that, like you see, that they said that they counted the amount of deer that they saw in the area.
Okay, so this is your recapture point where you're going to count deer, right? Okay, that you see. Okay, and what else? What'd you do in this point also?
You see how many are tagged in that amount.
Okay, so you're going to count how many you see, and then yes, in that group, how many were tagged? So now what are you doing with those two numbers?
You're putting the number that you see are tagged over the amount that you counted.
Right, so the numerator is the number that we see that are tagged over the total number that we counted. Got it? Okay, and that's the proportion. Very good. Here's what the book gave us. All right, now what I want you to do, you have your calculators. Trout. We're going to estimate trout population. Now, how many of you guys have ever had to get a fishing license to go fishing? Okay. Now, sometimes if you get a fishing license, they'll say there's a limit, right? Okay. There's a limit on the size, a minimum size, and there's also a limit on the number that you can catch. Okay. And the reason why is because they calculate the population size from year to year, and then they decide the population is increasing, so we can increase the number that people can catch that have a license, or maybe the population size, the estimated population size has decreased, and they've decided to decrease the number of fish that people can catch. Do you understand how somebody in resource management, that's what that would be, would make an adjustment? Natural resource management, that's what they would do. So whether you're catching fish or maybe hunting deer, because you didn't need a license for that, whatever it is you're hunting or fishing, typically they calculate those numbers and they determine what the limits are, okay? So now you have this new data. What I want you to do is set up your proportion and solve it to give me the estimated population size. Go ahead. So we've got a proportion. For my ratio on the left-hand side of my proportion, what's going in the numerator? 452. Okay, what goes in the denominator?
1,950.
What's that?
1,950.
Look what it says. Read it very carefully. That's how many we tagged, so that goes over here. And then what about the last number? Underneath, because we're talking about how many we counted, right? Not how many we tagged. And then on this side of the equation, what's in the bottom? The variable. It could be x, it could be t for Trout. So here's the setup. Okay, now using your calculators, go ahead and solve this proportion. Estimate to the nearest whole fish. Haven't closed it yet.
What that Wednesday happened? What happened that Wednesday? You attended the meeting, right? At Blackgate?
Oh, it was good. Mhm. It was good.
You said it like it is.
That wasn't, it was,
Compartmentalized.
yeah, it was kind of,
Email it to me, I'll send it to
Yeah.
you know, that's when you want
okay.
HR.
All right, I'll do that. Yeah, it was very streamlined. Like the questions were posed and then groups. Yeah, yeah, she did mention that. Yeah, I thought it was a good feedback session. Yeah, but it wasn't kind of like an open forum though. So it was
Anything else to add? Shoot me.
okay. It was very structured. I thought it was productive. There are some things I wouldn't mind adding though, for sure. Mhm. Okay, so when we solve this, what are we going to do? What's the first thing we got to do? Somebody. Somebody I haven't heard from yet would be nice. Zainab in the back. Yep, you're going to take your first cross product. 452 times x, what's that going to give me back? Right, and then what's the next cross product? Yes, you're going to multiply 2,985 with 1,956. Very good. And what did you get when you multiplied 2,985 times 1,956? Very good. 5,838,660. Okay, how do I solve for x? What am I going to do? We're going to multiply? What's very good? It's because x is being multiplied by 452. So to isolate x, I have to undo that multiply, divide both sides by 452. And what did you get for your estimated population size? 12,900. Are we good? Yep. So proportions, nothing new. Setting up the word problem, that's the new thing. Okay? But it's not really that difficult, do you think? Okay, so now go ahead and do that one. Same thing, set it up, estimate population size. Okay, so the first step, the easy step, or at least should be easy now. What is going to be in the numerator of the ratio on the left? Justin. 198. Very good. Okay. What's going to be in the denominator? Miriam? 3,102. Very good. 3,102. Okay, over here on the ratio on the right-hand side of the equation, or proportion, what's going over there? Who's got that? Who can tell me what's up with that ratio on the right-hand side of the proportion? Nicole, what's going to be on this ratio? So tell me, like, explain to me, what's the numerator, what's the denominator? Yep, the total tag is going to go in the numerator, but what about the denominator? It's going to be what? Say again. Can somebody help her out? What goes in the denominator? Lola?
For the second one.
What's
The
that's
second one, it's
x,
X.
our variable. And what are we trying to solve for?
We're trying to solve for X.
Estimated population size. So x. Got it? Okay. So you guys should have been able to set this up, and you have your calculators. So who could tell me what their answer was? Somebody I haven't heard from. Jose. Yeah, what'd you get? Very good. 2,704,944. That equals 198x. How do we solve for x here? Right, we're going to divide both sides by x. And then what'd you get for your answer? What was the estimated population size?
13,000.
Is that what you guys got?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next, 2 more to go. Estimate the animal population. We got rabbits we're dealing with. Set it up. What's it going to be? Who can set up the proportion for me? McKinley, can you set up the proportion? Which one are we working on? Which ratio? The left or the right side? Okay, so what goes over here? What number goes in? Where does that go? Bottom, top? Okay, so you're saying total rabbits counted is the denominator. I agree with you. Okay, then what? Okay, where's that going to go? In the numerator, very good. So the marked rabbits counted, that's going to go in the numerator. Okay, nice. And can you explain to me what's my right-hand side going to look like from a proportion? What's going to be in the numerator, the denominator there? Where's the variable going to be? In the numerator? The denominator. That's the total estimated population. That's going to be in the denominator. So then, what goes in the numerator? How many we tagged or marked? Okay? Think about it this way. So we have our capture step, right? We're not capturing all of the deer or all of the rabbits. We're capturing some of them, tagging them, and then letting them go back into the population. Okay? The population's, the big number is always going to be on the bottom for this situation. Okay? The part of the whole population that's tagged is the numerator. Got it? Okay? That ratio is going to be equal to the ratio of the recapture. So then we're going to go back. These rabbits all went out into the population. They've mixed up with the ones that didn't have a tag. Right? Now we're going to go back and we're going to recapture them. We recaptured them and we caught 5,804 of them. And of those 5,804, some of them were marked. You understand? That's the numerator. So we have a ratio that's going to be equal to the total population of those tagged to the total population. You understand? Okay. So the bottom number is larger. What's that?
It's really not some of them. That's like 97% of the entire rabbit population.
That's a lot.
So it's
Okay.
close.
So let's take a look. Shh. When you solve it, go ahead and solve it. You guys have calculators. Go ahead and solve it. Make sure you're putting down the steps in your notes. So many of you knew other strategies to solve proportions, right? Those strategies aren't always going to work. So that's why I try to give you, hey, this is the go-to. Sometimes it's not the most efficient, but it's going to work most of the time. Okay? So Jonathan, I see you in the back. Do you have an answer? What'd you get? What was the estimated population size?
9,748.
Everybody got 9,748? That's correct. Okay, last problem for us to complete. Bears.
Okay, and they're black. The variable has to be.
Tag these things.
Wait, why would you want to tag?
Okay, and I feel like you guys know how to solve the proportion. I'm going to go ahead and reveal to you what the proportion is. Okay. Okay. I would love to have a volunteer share with me their answer for estimated population size. Bokar, I haven't heard from you today. Can you give me your estimated population size?
So, 113 times 35. Wait, it is 7,640.
Okay, but that's not the answer. What's the answer going to be?
The answer then divide both sides 25.
Uh-huh. So what'd you get for your estimated population size?
It's 1 0. It's not 76. It's not 76.
Yeah. 630.
You.
Oh, I'm off by one. That's it? Yeah, what's the answer? 305. Thanks for the catch. Okay, any questions about this? Pretty easy lesson. Tomorrow you have a quiz on it. Make sure you do the homework tonight.